Fine,
No,
then you'll be sitting on the beach and enjoying some drinks.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Do nothing and stare at things.
I would say that is a real talent because we are terrible at taking vacations where we just sit there. We go, and then by the time, so we had a really great experience, but by the time we get back, we're exhausted.
I hate when somebody comes back from a vacation, especially somewhere really cool that like I can't afford, and they say, "Oh, I need a vacation now that I'm back from." I'm like, I'm gonna punch you in the face. Is what I'm gonna do,
right?
Because you're stupid. I don't think you understand what a vacation is,
right?
Like to me, that's a trip versus a vacation. And that drives me nuts when people get a vacation and then they whine about how tired they are when they get back. I'm like, I genuinely am like bubbling with fury towards you right now because you just got like you're lucky enough that you get to do this thing.
It's a fair point, for sure.
And then you're just like, I'm tired. Like, I hate you.
Now, I will say that on Friday, we are leaving for spring break, which is my daughter's drill team competition in Orlando, which includes 2 days at Disney.
Yeah, go nuts.
So we're going to go nuts, and being at Disney is just a recipe for being exhausted.
I'm fine with that, though, because Disney, I can expel some extra energy at a place like Disney and not complain about it because there's an adrenaline rush that kind of comes along with it.
Right.
Whether you're going to Harry Potter World, any of the Disney resorts, any of that stuff. And I'm feeling good.
You're down for that?
Yeah.
We will have one day at the beach. We're going to stay at my father-in-law's house the day after Disney, and we'll go to Cocoa Beach and hang out for a day, which will be pretty sweet.
A little bit of recharging there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
So I guess we should welcome people to Sunday Plus.
Yeah, welcome to Sunday Plus, episode 10. Not all of that's going to make the cut, but probably me complaining about people who are bad at vacations will.
Yeah, right.
My vacations are always centered around food. That's basically where are we going to eat, and then what are we going to look at in between eating?
Right. Well, I was going to say that's what Jim Gaffigan says is the vacations are just eating in a different place. Yeah. Which I will like. Maybe this is again like our fifth tangent, but I miss. It hasn't like. I didn't grow up without chains, but I do miss going to a new place and seeing the exact same restaurants and exact same places all around the country. Like I love going to another country where it's, all right, I'm not going to see a McDonald's on every corner, or I'm not going to see a Walmart and a, Michael's Fabric or whatever it might be. So I miss I want to drive somewhere, and when I get there, I want to have to find someplace local.
It's funny. I was just in a text conversation with a buddy of mine last night because he was in Baton Rouge, and he's like, "Hey, tomorrow we're going to be New Orleans. Like, do you know some places?" And I said, "Who all's with you?" And he said, "We do have the kids with us." And I said, "Okay, here's where you go. Here's where you're going to eat. Do these things, and it's going to be amazing." He was like, "Nice." Just because New Orleans is one of my favorite places because you can drive there. It's relatively inexpensive, and that's a great vacation for me,
right?
Because I don't feel compelled to like constantly be doing something.
Right.
I could just go somewhere and then just kind of check out the river,
zone out a little bit,
chill out. Yeah. Okay, so we started new
sermon series. Yeah,
it is Finding Peace in Prayer. Did I say that right?
Finding Peace in Prayer, and shout out to Christina Paxton for being a hand model for the.
If you see the graphic, the little peace sign, that is Christina Paxton. She was the guinea pig, and then we ended up using that as the graphic.
Perfect,
because it was great.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wrote down that I thought was interesting, because you were talking about the prayer that we always talk about, where Jesus teaches his disciples to pray, which. My wife had kind of asked about this. She's like, "When you like teaching to pray, like how does that work?" And then it made me think of the concept of the anatomy of a prayer. So break that down.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways that people like. There's an ACTS prayer, and I always forget what they stand for, but it's like acclamation about how great God is, and then I can't remember. It's usually something along the lines of like addressing God in the respect that God deserves. The acknowledgement of what you have received, the request of what you're asking for, and then kind of a thankfulness at the back end of that.
Does every prayer need all of those things?
I don't think so at all. I mean, Paul talks, I think it's in Philippians where he says, pray unceasingly. And I know someone who literally throughout the day just kind of carries on a conversation with God and, oh God, thank you. This sunset is so beautiful. Thank you for that. And like, oh my gosh, I really am struggling with this person. Could you please give me patience or please give me understanding? And so I don't think there is one way to pray. There was a great thing that circulated around social media probably 6-7 years ago. And it was this and I saw it again the other day is the only reason I'm thinking of it. And it's like, hey God, it's me. Just checking in. Want to tell you thanks. All right, bye. And it was just like, it hit this nerve because like whenever I'm in a room and someone's praying, they're always looking at me like, hey, David, would you pray for us?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm happy to do so. I don't mind talking to God, and especially on behalf of other people. But what's behind that is this: we don't feel comfortable because our prayers don't sound eloquent and loquacious. And
only one way to get better.
Right. Well, and
keep doing it.
Right. There's also just the simplicity of, I think one of the things in the Lord's Prayer that is missed is when we say Our Father, it had always been Adonai or Elohim or these like very formal master names for God.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden Jesus says, no, this very intimate Father language is going to be used. So the Lord's Prayer is essentially not a formal prayer in its day and a time. And then we made it into a formal prayer.
I, most of the time, do not pray the Lord's Prayer the way it's written. My philosophy is because I don't talk like that.
Yeah.
I don't use those words.
Right.
Who art in heaven. I have never said that outside of reciting, David, who art in this room on this podcast.
Well, you art in this room right now.
And so
and whoever art online watching.
I find that very silly because I don't talk like that and I don't know anybody who does.
Right.
And so why would I pray like that? I find that I understand like the concept behind Lord's Prayer. Like we're going to memorize it. It's kind of the standard, the basis. But even in church, when I'm praying, I say it, I modernize the language and say it in a way that I would say that.
Right. That resonates. Yeah.
Give us this day our daily bread. Like, I don't say that. Like, thank you for the food I'm going to have.
Right. Please, Lord, provide everything that I need.
Yes. Forgive me my mistakes. Like I'm going to make them, but just please, keep me away from them. Like that kind of thing. So I talk the way that I would talk. And I find it strange with like when somebody publicly prays in a way that's like kind of this like Shakespearean. I'm like, you don't talk like that.
Well, I think that's when, when you're being asked, how do you teach someone to pray, or what's the formal anatomy or proper anatomy of a prayer? There really isn't one. I mean, prayer is the connection with God that we have. It is not to get anything specifically. It is not to butter God up and then God's going to all of a sudden love you more than somebody else, right? Like prayer is just that conversation with God that keeps us connected. And sometimes it's simply breathing, and sometimes it's simply meditating and sitting, and sometimes it's listening, and sometimes it is actively intercessing and asking for things on other people's behalf. And
I like that you said. Sometimes it's listening. I think that's the part that we most often forget, because I've heard it said that prayer should never be approached like God is a genie in a bottle and we're waiting, rubbing the lamp when we start praying, because then you're just constantly asking for stuff. Fix this. Give me this. Can I have this? I want that. Like that seems remarkably selfish.
Right.
And, if I were a deity, I'd be like, hey, maybe thanks.
I love the
stuff.
The scene in the movie Bruce Almighty when he gets on and he's like answering. He creates this Yahoo format for answering email prayers, and so he's answering prayers and then gets into this rhythm of like just speed typing yes for everything, and then he puts it on auto, like answer all of them yes. And then everybody's massive chaos reigns because like
I went on the donut diet and lost 200 pounds.
Right. Well, everybody wins the lottery, so everybody only gets like a cent, and they're all mad about it, so they're rioting, and it's just this whole chaos of.
I need to go back and rewatch that movie.
It's a solid movie still. Showed it to the kids. They didn't like it as much, but I thought it was still held up. Morgan Freeman just makes an excellent God figure as well. But what's interesting, so like at the end of John 16, I think is where it is, where Jesus says, and he says this other times about whatever you ask. It's like on that day, whatever you ask me in my name, I'll grant it to you. And I never really hit it or noticed it before, but like right before that, it talks about that day, and which is this is the day and like the Lord's kingdom comes to fruition and all. Says you'll have everything you need. So Jesus says everything will be great. You're gonna have everything you need, and on that day, I'll give you anything that you need. And I was like, well, that's very interesting because it's not the like desperation time that we're gonna ask for. You're gonna get like our sports car that we've always wanted. It's the day the Lord comes. We're gonna have everything we need. So it's almost like we don't have to ask for anything.
That's fair.
Yeah.
It's all just gonna be laid out.
Right.
So you also said a phrase that I thought was interesting because it was more of a conceptual thing. The more difficult something is, the more the reward is. Mm-hmm. And I pondered on that for a minute. Is that kind of a universal truth? The harder you tend to work for something, the more satisfying it is when you get it.
Yeah, I think from an effort standpoint, I 100% believe that. I was talking with a young guy after church who's trying to mentor his little sister, who is just incredibly naturally gifted athletically. Like everything comes easy, but almost got bored, or like when a little bit of challenge came in, even socially about the sport, decided to quit, and now just picked up another one and is all of a sudden good at that. So about the
rude.
Right, I know exactly. Like if everyone could be like that. But it was, so when you're playing a sport, right, in a or when you're smart and you go through a breeze through high school, and then all of a sudden you maybe make it to med school or law school, and you're surrounded by brilliant people. So if something becomes a challenge, and all of a sudden you may not be number one, there's a whole kind of population and studies on people who just collapse when they don't know how to handle the adversity of not having it easy. And so, but the things we have to put the effort into and work for are just, we know how much it means to us because we're willing to work for it. And it just, I think the reward is significantly greater in those moments than the things that just get handed to us.
There are things that I would prefer get handed to me.
Well, I think prefer is different than reward, right?
Well, I would even say that there are some things, for me personally, that I know I'm going to have to work hard for it, and it doesn't change. I feel still at the end of it, I feel no satisfaction outside of the fact that I don't have to do this now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I didn't, we were talking about math with the kids yesterday. I gained no satisfaction out of getting a high grade on a math test.
Okay.
Because I still had to do all this work that I'm like, I hate this.
Yeah.
A lot. And I like, if I got like a 96 on a math test, no satisfaction, no joy.
Oh, really? Like, interesting. Okay. Maybe it's not a universal thing.
I don't know. Like, it's just something that I don't want to be doing in the first place, but I know I have to be doing this. Right. And so I think for me, it's more going after something I genuinely have a heart for, whether that's, I really want to be able to play this song, or I want to be able to play this instrument. I want to be able to step on a basketball court and shoot a 3-pointer and make it like a good amount of the time. Things like that, things that you actually do have to work towards, that you, unless you're that one person, you can just kind of do it. But I don't know. I do feel that effort really shines through when you get to a certain point. But yeah, not everything for me is.
Not everything for you. See, I don't know. See, I found that even like the most difficult conversations of conflict that I've had to have, that I hate conflict. I dread it like anything.
It's not the best.
It's not the best. I know very few people that like it, and the people that like it love it.
I think it's not conflict they like, it's drama.
Maybe.
Because I know people that thrive on drama, and they kind of associate drama with their life being interesting. Okay. I'm like, you could do more interesting things than just be a dramatic person that should probably have a TV show.
So after I have made it through that, and even if it doesn't reach a positive resolution at all, there is and maybe I think it's because I'm so afraid of it, that it is okay, I did this. I can, I'm still alive. I'm still breathing. They might not like me anymore, but tomorrow is going to come. And I think there's a pride sense of, okay, I faced my fear. I did it. and it's all going to be okay.
That I can get on board with.
Yeah.
When you know you're going to have that conflict with somebody, it's this looming thing that you're going to have to deal with one way or the other. Once you've charged through and gotten through it, I get that.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that. Which you speaking of conflict, like there was something you said that made me think of a quote that I always kind of chuckle, but I think it's good advice. It's kind of a roundabout way of that I guess the Pauline scripture where he's talking about, you know, the birds don't worry yet they still get fed, all that stuff.
Well, that's from Matthew 6, I believe. That's the Sermon on the Mount.
Oh, that.
Jesus is saying, "Don't worry." Yeah.
Just kidding. Yeah. That was not Paul. That was Jesus. Sorry, Jesus. But it was from the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Okay.
And
is it the "I find worry means you suffer twice"?
Yeah.
I love that quote.
That is a great quote. My philosophy is worrying just means you suffer twice.
Right.
And that has been something that I've kind of held close to me. If I catch myself worrying about something I don't have control over, I just think about it. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll do that.
Newt's commander for the win on that quote, because like I found myself worrying about a situation, and Lindsay told me last night. She's like, "Well, have you done everything you can do in the situation?" I was like, "I mean, yeah," and still not happy about it, but it was like, okay, I can't do anything more in this situation that I've already done, and just, I'm not doing anything good by worrying whatsoever. So either figure out something else you can do about it, or, let God grace wash over you and move forward. So
engage your brain in something else.
Engage your brain in something else for sure. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Okay. So last thing I've written down, 73% of the world claims to be happy.
That's what Ipsos says. Yeah.
That is, I would not have guessed that.
I was really fascinated by that as well, given the climate, or because India is high on the list.
I get the, I've heard before somewhere, I don't recall where, that poverty is often prevalent in places where people are happiest.
Yeah, I think there's, I brought up India because India is interesting, and then it's got this huge tech sector. It's got a highly educated population to some degree, and then there's a ton of poor people because there's like 1 billion people that live there. And so you have to wonder, like, okay, well, who's actually responding to the sample size on that level? But South Korea is the lowest on the list because, one, distrust in the current leadership and everything that's gone down in their politics, but two, the workplace culture is so, like, the suicide rates are high. Just this driven to succeed culture that we somewhat share in America is a recipe. So it's a recipe for wealth and prosperity, and it's also a recipe for burnout and disaster.
Yeah.
So the Netherlands is on the high part of the list because they're like, yeah, we have an egalitarian society. We don't necessarily worry about a whole lot of things, and everybody's kind of happy about it.
Because I've always heard Denmark is one of the happiest places.
And Finland. Yeah, he actually, the guy who they interviewed is basically like, if you would have interviewed more Scandinavian countries than us, you would have found that they would all be on the top 5 of the list. Which is funny to me because it's like cold and dark, 3/4 of the year.
Yeah, but when you look at it, you're like, the landscape is insane.
Yeah.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. And I think, something about what they've been able to do over there, the culture that they've developed is, yes, we might not all be driving Beamers and whatever, but we get along and we work together, and there's kind of this collegiality and pride in who we are, and
general happiness.
There's something to be said for having happiness, even if you don't have all the trappings of life.
Did I hear Mexico was up there?
Mexico is number 2.
Wow.
Yeah, which think about everything we hear about Mexico, but
well, we have an odd perspective, being the state that is bumpered up against it, and a good chunk of our population is Mexican immigrants, people,
especially in Texas here.
Yeah, and so, and you think about it, and So one of the things that I often think about is that kind of yard party atmosphere.
I was just thinking of that. Yeah.
Everybody's got a Corona or a Dos Equis, and they're grilling, and the kids are just running around barefoot in the grass and doing whatever, and it's this very. And then you have the Tejano music in the background, and everybody is just pitching in and enjoying each other's company.
Yeah, it's incredibly community related.
Yes,
and that's where I think even if we're going through something and struggling through something, as long as we're doing it with somebody else, it provides a lot more meaning and purpose.
Absolutely, and it lessens the sting of it,
right?
Because you're not going through it by yourself, and I absolutely agree with that. If I'm going through something bad, I don't want to be by myself. Even if I do want to be by myself, I kind of don't want to be by myself. I would prefer somebody to force me to be around them.
Well, you want to matter to somebody, right? And you want to be seen and as a person and the person that values. So I was surprised by some of the lists and it was really interesting. It'd be a whole other sermon to walk through each country and the data they have about what makes these people happy or unhappy. Because Hungary was tied for the second, but they have a dictatorship essentially. Yeah. And so you've got South Korea, which is, the political leaders are doing bad things, but also the workplace culture, they feel like servants. Ugh. And then you've got Hungary, which they literally are in somewhat of a dictatorship and an oppressive rule. So you may not, but then you go to Mexico and the Netherlands where it's community-based and egalitarian, and there's something to be said for that. And
so what's something that you think you could change to make your day-to-day life where you would be happier?
That is a great question.
For the record, I don't know how to answer that for myself.
Yeah, no, it's a great question.
Then I start thinking about immediately, what would I do? I don't know.
I think, fortunately, I'm in a position where I'm around, I'm in community with a lot of people. Our staff has a great support network. The church has a great support network. I've got a great family. So I've got that togetherness, but I think if I could do more things with people that I just like and there's no other connection. They've got great friends here at church, but there's always this weird dynamic of I'm the pastor and they're not. And so if I could just get a basketball game together with people who were this is just something we do because we like each other.
Count me in.
Sure. Yeah. So I think that would be something that I would want to do.
I actually think for me, I'm pondering this as I'm spitballing here, but I think if I had a better workout regimen, because I hate working out, but I've never regretted doing it.
Right.
It's the dumbest thing. And I know people who they claim they love to work out and they just kind of got to a certain point where they convinced their brain it's not optional, I guess. And I want to get to that point where I, to an extent, look forward to it. And I can't do that yet. Well, my workout schedule is very inconsistent and I hate doing it. Like I said, but I never regret it after I've done it.
Right. Yeah, I'm the same way. I take my daughter to drill team. We wake up at 6:30 in the morning. I drop her off by 6:50, and then I'm at the gym by 7 until about 8:15. And so building it into the habit has been a good thing. And I got to get up anyway. She can't drive. But I notice on days where they don't have school or weekends, it's I'm kind of awake at 6 anyway.
Might as well.
Well, sometimes it's might as well, and often it is, but there are plenty of days I'm nobody's going to wake up for 2 hours. I can go play video games for 2 hours. Or I could literally lay here.
I didn't know you play video games.
Not
what
often.
System do you have?
I've got an Xbox 360.
I still have mine.
Yeah, I've got the last, I basically play, I've got NCAA 13, which was the last one they made before 13. The current one. And the weird thing is garage, people would come in garage sales and I'd they'd ask if I had any video games. And I said, well, I've got some, but I play them. And it's well, do you have NCAA? And I was well, I've got 13. And they'd be willing to buy it for $500.
What?
And now I feel stupid because I could have sold it for $500 and they've got the whole brand new, game that came out. But I've got FIFA 18, which was the last one they made for Xbox 360. I only play FIFA, Madden, and NCAA football. And then I just got a Switch, so I've been playing some Tetris and Mario, but I don't play very much because no one in my family plays. So
I had a very so when I was in college, I got into video games, and I was more into RPG games at the time, and then racing games. I had a big stint obsession with racing games, and then after that, just NBA 2K.
yeah.
And now I have an Xbox One,
Okay.
a 360, a Switch, and I play none of them.
Well, that's the weird, like, if you, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Kristen plays or not, but like,
She plays Switch a little bit. The Switch is hers.
okay.
But yeah, like she plays Animal Crossing,
Okay.
and when the season's right, she'll play some Luigi's Haunted Mansion.
Okay.
And then I just play Mario Kart.
That's what I just find, like, in the season of life that we're in, if you don't have people who are into it to play along with, then it's kind of one of those, okay, well, we could be fixing up our house or doing responsible adult things.
See, that's where I'm at now. Like
Yeah.
if I start playing a video game, I feel like I could be doing something actually constructive right now. And I feel like a lazy bum because I'm sitting here, playing an NBA game when I could be working on a new song. I could be working out, doing something constructive, cleaning, launch, like adult stupid stuff.
Well, I think when you ask the question of what I would do differently to make myself, like, to make my day happier, is I would find time that has no consequence, I think. And that's maybe what the basketball thing was, is
that is a good quote. Time with no consequence.
When I have found, like, when no one else is in my house, I know they're not going to be there for like 4 or 5 hours. I will sit down and play, because like every college football game that you play on Xbox takes like 35, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'll sit down and play a couple games, and I will find myself just so refreshed because it's fun, it's brainless.
But yeah, you shut your brain off.
I'm not like consistently worried about somebody else's expectations. So I do think there is some health in, like, you can certainly get addicted to alternate environments like that, but I think there's some health in shutting your brain down for people like us who are achievers. And I mean, golly, the number of times when I should be like paying attention to the TV show we're watching as a family, and I'm thinking about, okay, what do I have to do tomorrow at work, is pretty unhealthy.
It is hard for me to get into shows for that very reason.
Yeah.
I think it's the exact same reason I can't play video games anymore, because I feel like I'm a bum because I'm
wasting time.
something.
Yeah.
Wasting time.
I love when movie theaters opened up after COVID, and I can't remember the first one that we went and saw, but like I went into the theater because you got to set your phone down or else people are going to yell at you. And it's this massive environment. So there's like, you're not just sitting in your couch watching a screen. You are encapsulated in this environment where you can't be anywhere else.
You can't go anywhere.
And it was the
be on your
most
phone,
therapeutic thing in the world to force yourself into a situation where I just have to receive and enjoy for a little while.
That is one thing that I will occasionally do is if I go see a Marvel movie and I'm like, ooh, that was really fun, I want to go see it again. Because I usually go with my wife and our friend group or whatever, especially if there's one that we're particularly excited about. But if there's a Marvel movie that comes out that my wife is like, I have no interest in that, I'll watch it when it comes out on Disney Plus. I'll just go to the movie theater by myself because it is that experience. I get to be forcefully shut down where I only have one thing to pay attention to.
And I mean, to fully circle back to prayer here, when Jesus says go into your prayer closet, like it's really in a humble fashion compared to the Pharisees who are on the street. But I think there is something powerful about carving out that time where I'm going to intentionally shut myself out from the world and I'm only going to be in God's grace. And whether that is I'm going to pray through scriptures or I'm just going to meditate on the thoughts or I'm going to listen for a little while, like I think to take that time, because the praying throughout the day and talking to God is great and it immerses God within your daily life. But I do think that we are wired and designed to have a little bit of time where it's like, I have no expectation upon me except to sit in the abundance of God's grace.
One of my favorite things that I've seen you post since getting to work with you was on Christmas Eve after everybody left.
Yeah.
You were the last one in the building and you were just sitting in the worship center by yourself and you were just kind of, being in that space and the silence. And I very much identify with that, because every once in a while, that's what I need, especially after, chaos of that many worship services. And I absolutely love that image that you posted. And then I saw it the next day. I was like, oh, jealous that I didn't do that.
Yeah, well, not everybody has great ideas all the time.
And on that note, we will close out episode 10. Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks for joining us.
Go find your quiet place and
take a moment for yourself and God.
You deserve it.
You deserve it.
All right. Peace.
Peace.